Wemby just dominated in Paris. The NBA flew hundreds of people across the world, planned an entire week of festivities, and built up the hype for this moment. And when the lights were the brightest, he delivered in every possible way. This was not just another game. It was a statement, a performance that showed exactly why he is one of the most unique and dominant players in the league right now. From the opening tip, the energy in the building was different. Every time he touched the ball, the crowd buzzed with excitement, waiting for him to do something special. And he wasted no time making his presence felt. In the first quarter alone, he put up 10 points, grabbed 4 rebounds, dished out an assist, and sent back a shot on defense. He looked comfortable, confident, and completely in control. Every movement, every decision, everything just looked effortless. This was his moment, and he owned it from the start. By the time halftime rolled around, he had already filled up the stat sheet. 15 points on efficient shooting, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. He was doing a little bit of everything. His offensive rhythm was perfect. He was knocking down shots, creating for others, and attacking with purpose. And on defense, he was just as impactful, contesting shots, protecting the rim, and making life miserable for anyone trying to score near him. He was in total command, and you could feel the momentum building. Then came the third quarter, and that is when everything went to another level. There was a stretch that might have been the best 2 minutes of his entire career. In that short span, he completely dominated both ends of the floor. He was scoring, rebounding, blocking shots, just taking over in every possible way. The energy in the building exploded, and the crowd fed off every single play. He was putting on a masterclass, and the numbers only told part of the story. The way he controlled the game, dictated the pace, and made an impact in every area. It was special to watch, but it did not stop there. The final 6 minutes of the game, that was when things got completely out of hand. In just those last few moments, he put up 11 points, grabbed 3 more rebounds, handed out 2 assists, and swatted away 4 shots, 4 blocks in 6 minutes. That is not just dominant. It is absurd. He was everywhere, affecting every possession, making an impact in ways that very few players in the league can. It was like he decided he was going to completely take over, and there was absolutely nothing anyone could do about it. By the time the final buzzer sounded, his stat line looks like something out of a video game. 30 points on 13 of 21 shooting, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks. That is a complete performance in every sense of the word. And those 5 blocks, that is now the most ever recorded in an NBA Paris game. He walked into the arena, put his stamp on the game, and left with his name in the record books. Just another example of how special he already is. And then came the moment that sealed everything. The crowd chanting MVP as he checked out of the game in Paris, in front of his home crowd. That was not just respect, that was recognition. The fans knew what they had just witnessed, and they let him hear it. That moment alone speaks louder than any stat line. It is one thing to put up numbers. It is another thing entirely to own the stage like that and have an entire arena celebrating you in real time. I mean, look at this. His performance, 30 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 blocks is not just impressive, it is historic. This is the kind of stat line that only a handful of legendary players have ever reached multiple times. And the fact that he has already climbed to 5th on this list in just his 2nd season, that is nothing short of incredible. The names ahead of him are not just great players, they are all-time legend. Hakeem recorded this stat line 12 times. Shaquille O'Neal and David Robinson each did it 11 times. And Joel Embiid, an MVP and an Olympic gold medalist, has done it 4 times. That is the entire list. These are dominant, game-changing big men who shape the league with their ability to score, rebound, protect the rim, and make plays for their teammates. And now Wembanyama is right there with them, proving that he is on a trajectory that could take him beyond all of them. To put this in perspective, every player on that list has either won an MVP, made the Hall of Fame, or will eventually be inducted. That is the level of dominance Wembanyama is already displaying. He is not just putting up empty stats, he is filling up the box score in a way that directly impacts winning. Scoring 30 points in a game is difficult enough. Adding 11 rebounds to that shows how much he controls the glass. Throwing in 6 assists proves he is not just a scorer, but a playmaker, making life easier for his teammates. And 5 blocks, that is elite level rim protection. That completely changes the way opponents approach the game. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives, I'll be posting every day during the season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, Wemby. It is not just about the individual numbers. It is about how few players in NBA history have ever been able to do all of this at once. The game has seen dominant scorers, great rebounders, elite shot blockers, and skilled passers. But players who can do all of it in a single game, multiple times, that is an entirely different level of greatness. And Wembanyama is doing this at an age when most players are still trying to find their footing in the league. He is not just competing with elite NBA talent. He is putting up numbers that put him in the same category as legends who dominated the league for over a decade. His ability to consistently impact every single part of the game is what makes him such a special player. The crazy part, he is just getting started. Every player on this list accomplished these numbers later in their careers when they had already established themselves as superstars. Wembanyama is doing this in his second season. That is unheard of. He is ahead of schedule, and if he keeps this pace, he will shatter these numbers in no time. What makes this even more exciting is that he is not just a stat sheet stuffer. He is a game changer. His points come in an efficient way that keeps the offense flowing. His rebounds are not just empty numbers. They stop second chance opportunities and create transition plays. His assists show his vision and willingness to make the right play instead of forcing bad shots. And his shot blocking, it is already at a level that makes him one of the best rim protectors in the league. And we talk about this game. But the thing is, Wemby has been dominating the past month as a whole. Victor Wembanyama's numbers this season are absolutely mind-blowing. Every advanced stat, every leaderboard, every major defensive and offensive metric. He is not just ranking among the best, he is leading the pack. And the craziest part, he is doing it this early in his career. The numbers are not just impressive, they are historic. He is shattering records, dominating every aspect of the game, and proving that he is a once-in-a-generation type of talent. Let's start with his shot blocking dominance, because quite frankly, nobody in the league is even close. Since the year 2015, no player has recorded more games with at least 8 blocks than Wembanyama. He has done it 8 times already. The next closest player is Hassan Whiteside, who has 7. After that, Brook Lopez, who has only done it 4 times. That kind of gap is just ridiculous. And it gets even crazier. He is already ranked 16th all-time in games with at least 8 blocks. And he has only played a season and a half. That is unheard of. He is climbing the all-time leaderboards at a historic rate. And if he keeps this up, he will be sitting near the very top before long. That is the type of production that defines a legendary shot blocker. But blocking shots is one thing. Doing it while barely committing fouls is what makes him special. His blocks per foul ratio is completely off the charts. He is sitting at 1.81 blocks per foul, which is the highest in the league. For comparison, Walker Kessler is at 1.13. Anthony Davis is at 1.11. Jonathan Isaac, known as one of the most disciplined shot blockers in the game, is at 0.94. Wembanyama is in a league of his own when it comes to protecting the rim while staying out of foul trouble. He is swatting everything in sight, but he is not biting on pump fake. He is not reaching, and he is not taking himself out of the game. His discipline and timing are already at an elite level. And then there is his total shot blocking dominance this season. He is averaging 4.1 blocks per game. Let that sink in. The next closest player, Walker Kessler at 2.5. After that, Anthony Davis at 2.1 and Miles Turner at 2. He is nearly doubling the block numbers of the best rim protectors in the league. That is not just impressive, it is completely unheard of. Nobody is contesting shots like him. Nobody is altering as many possessions, and nobody is shutting down the paint the way he is. But his defense goes way beyond just blocking shots. When it comes to isolation defense, he is shutting down some of the league's best scorers at an elite level. He is holding opponents to just 0.68 points per possession in isolation situations. That ranks second in the entire NBA. The only player ahead of him, Murray, at 0.64. That means when a player tries to go one-on-one against him, they are almost guaranteed to come away empty-handed. His length, footwork, and timing make it nearly impossible to get a clean look. He is eliminating one-on-one scoring threats in a way that few players ever have. And then there is his offensive game, which is just as impressive as his defense. When it comes to shooting with the defender right in his face, he is one of the most efficient players in the league. His effective field goal percentage on tightly contested shots is 62.6%. That puts him in 4th place, behind only Domantas Sabonis, Giannis, and Michael Porter Jr. That means even when defenders are closing in, even when he does not have space, he is still knocking down shots at an elite rate. He does not need wide open looks to be effective. He has the touch, the confidence, and the ability to score under pressure. And when he gets into the restricted area, he is finishing at an absurdly high level. He is shooting 76.3% in that zone, ranking 5th in the league. The only players ahead of him are Brandon Clark, Obi Toppin, Mikal Bridges, and Santi Aldama. That is an elite list of finishers, and Wembanyama is right there among them. And what makes this even more impressive is that he is not just a paint player. He is scoring from everywhere, mid-range, beyond the arc, at the rim. His offensive versatility makes him nearly impossible to guard. Now, let's talk about his impact in the fourth quarter, because this is where things get even more ridiculous. He is holding opponents to just 26% shooting from 3 in the final quarter of games. That is the 4th best mark in the entire league. Only Damian Lillard, Rudy Gobert, and Dyson Daniels have been better in that category. When the game is on the line and teams need a big shot, they are not getting it against Wembanyama. He is locking down the perimeter, protecting the paint, and making sure nothing comes easy in crunch time. That kind of late game impact is something only the best defenders in history have been able to provide. And if that was not enough, he is also putting up some of the best rebounding performances in the league. He already has a game this season where he grabbed 23 rebounds, which is the second most by any player. The only one who has grabbed more in a single game this year, Domantas Sabonis, who had 28. That is an elite level of rebounding dominance. He is keeping possessions alive, shutting down second chance opportunities for opponents, and making sure his team controls the glass. Every single one of these stats tells the same story. Wembanyama is not just good, he is already one of the most impactful players in the entire league. He is blocking shots at a rate the NBA has not seen in years. He is holding isolation scores to some of the worst efficiency numbers in the league. He is finishing at the rim at an elite rate. He is contesting three-pointers in the fourth quarter, better than almost anyone. He is rebounding at a level that few players can match, and he is doing all of this while barely committing fouls and staying efficient on offense. The numbers do not just say he is great, they say he is redefining what is possible. But for Wemby, the one thing that's been so amazing to me this year is his defense. He's a force unlike anything we've seen in a long time. Let's start with deflections. He's averaging 3.4 per game, putting him in the 89th percentile. That means he's better than almost every player in the league at getting his hands in passing lanes and disrupting the offense. And this isn't just about steals, it's about making ball handlers think twice before making a pass, forcing them to hesitate, and creating chaos without even touching the ball. Every time he gets a fingertip on a pass, he's shifting the momentum. That split second of disruption forces offensive players to reset, rerun actions, or even make panic decisions that lead to turnovers. He's not just reacting to plays, he's dictating them. Now, let's talk about his ability to clean up possessions. Defensive rebounding is one of the most underrated aspects of great defense, and Wembanyama is a lead in this area. He's grabbing 1.7 defensive rebounds per game, putting him in the 98th percentile. That is absurd for a player who spends a lot of time contesting shots rather than just sitting under the rim waiting for misses. Most players who block shots at his level struggle to secure rebounds because they're out of position after contests, but Wembanyama is different. He has the length, the timing, and the instincts to block a shot and still grab the board. This prevents second chance points and fuels transition offense for his team. But what truly separates Wembanyama from almost everyone else is his rim protection. The numbers are just unfair. His rim defense rating sits at a ridiculous minus 12.8%, which places him in the 98th percentile. What does that mean? Opponents are shooting nearly 13% worse than their average when they try to score against him at the rim. That's not just elite, it's generational. There are very few players in NBA history who have been this dominant at altering shots near the basket. Every time someone drives into the paint, they have to decide whether they really want to challenge him. More often than not, they either hesitate, pass the ball out, or settle for a much worse shot than they originally planned. His rim frequency is just as eye-popping. At 46.2%, he ranks in the 95th percentile. This means nearly half of all shots taken against his team come at the rim, and he's right there contesting them. His presence alone forces teams to rethink their entire offensive approach. Players who normally feast in the paint have to adjust their game completely. Big men who rely on post-ups find themselves stuck because their usual moves don't work against his length. Guards who love finishing at the rim have to get creative or just avoid attacking altogether. He changes everything. Now let's get into his shot blocking, because this is where things get truly ridiculous. Wembanyama's block percentage is sitting at 10.5, which puts him at the very top, 100th percentile. There's nobody better. This means that over 10% of all opponent shot attempts while he's on the floor are getting sent back. That is absolutely insane. There are plenty of great shot blockers in NBA history, but very few have reached this level of pure intimidation. Opponents know that if they try to shoot anywhere near him, there's a very good chance their shot is going right back in their face. His blocks aren't just highlights, they're momentum killers. He swats a shot, and suddenly the energy in the arena shifts. The crowd erupts. His teammates get hyped. The opposing offense gets frustrated. It's not just about stopping a bucket. It's about making a statement. And then there's his overall defensive impact, measured by crafted defensive player metric, DPM. Wembanyama is sitting at an elite 3.6, which again puts him in the 100th percentile. This number is one of the best indicators of how much a player contributes to their team's success on the defensive end, and he's at the absolute top. This stat takes everything into account: rim protection, perimeter defense, rebounding, deflections, and even how much a player affects shots that don't show up in the box score. And Wembanyama is excelling in every single category. He's not just good in one area, he's impacting every level of defense, from disrupting passing lanes to shutting down the paint to eliminating second chance opportunities. His versatility rating sits at 16, which places him in the 29th percentile. While that's lower than some other elite defenders, it makes sense. His role is defined. He's primarily guarding bigs and protecting the paint rather than switching onto guards and wings. But that doesn't mean he's limited. In fact, his presence alone allows his teammates to take more risks, knowing that he's always there as a safety net. His length and mobility mean he can still recover and contest shots, even when pulled away from the rim. One of the most overlooked aspects of his defensive game is his ability to stay disciplined. His RPF, or relative personal fouls per game, sits at minus 0.4, ranking in the 73rd percentile. This means he's fouling less than most players while still maintaining his insane defensive presence. Many young shot blockers struggle with foul trouble early in their careers because they bite on pump fakes or get caught reaching. But Wembanyama has already figured out how to stay aggressive without constantly getting whistled. He's challenging everything while keeping himself on the floor, which is huge for his team. When you combine all these numbers, you get the complete picture of a defender who is already among the most dominant in the league. He's not just a great rim protector, he's an all-around defensive weapon. He's shutting down the paint, altering shots, disrupting passes, limiting second chance points, and doing all of it without getting himself into foul trouble. There just aren't many weaknesses to exploit. And remember, he's doing all of this in his first full season. Most players take years to develop this kind of defensive impact. Wembanyama is already there, and he's only going to get better. The scary part is that he's still figuring things out. His instincts will sharpen, his strength will improve, his understanding of NBA offenses will get even better. If he's already this dominant, imagine what he'll look like in a few years. The numbers don't lie. Wembanyama is on track to be one of the greatest defenders this game has ever seen. Every advanced stat backs it up. His shot blocking is elite. His rim protection is historic. His ability to force bad shots, contest everything, and rebound at a high level makes him a defensive cornerstone. And the fact that he's doing all of this while still growing as a player, that's just scary. His defense is game-changing, and the numbers prove it. But the thing is, his offensive has been elite too. Let's start with true shooting percentage, which sits at 58.5%, putting him in the 69th percentile. That is a fantastic mark for someone with his offensive responsibility. True shooting accounts for everything: field goals, three-point shots, and free throws. So it gives the clearest picture of how efficient a player actually is. And Wembanyama is thriving in this area. He is not just taking a ton of shots, he is making sure they are high-quality attempts. He is scoring with a level of efficiency that puts him well above the league average, which is impressive for a player who has so much defensive attention on him every night. Speaking of high-quality shots, his shot quality rating is 65.6, ranking him in the 74th percentile. That means he is consistently generating and taking good looks. He is not forcing bad shots, he is not settling, and he is making smart decisions with the ball. This is a huge reason why his efficiency numbers are so strong. He knows when to attack, when to pull up, and when to find a better shot. He is making the right reads and putting himself in the best positions to score, which is what separates great scorers from volume shooters. Now, let's talk about his free throw rate. which is 23.4%, placing him in the 57th percentile. This is a crucial number because it shows that he is getting to the line at a solid rate. The best scorers in the league all know how to draw foul, and Wembanyama is already showing that ability. He is not just relying on jump shots, he is attacking defenders and forcing them to foul him. And the best part, he is a strong free throw shooter, so every trip to the line means easy points. As he continues to develop and get stronger, this number is likely to go up, making him an even bigger problem for defenses. Then there is his three-point attempt rate, which is 44.5%, ranking in the 55th percentile. That means nearly half of his total shot attempts are coming from beyond the arc. That is a massive number for a player his size. Most big men take a handful of threes here and there, but Wembanyama is a legitimate perimeter threat. His shooting ability forces defenses to stretch out, which opens up the floor for his teammates. Defenders have no choice but to step out and guard him beyond the arc, and that creates driving lanes, mismatches, and endless offensive opportunities. The fact that he can hit threes at a high rate while also being a dominant inside scorer makes him one of the most versatile offensive weapons in the league. His offensive rebounding numbers are solid as well. His offensive rebounding rate is at -0.1, which lands him in the 53rd percentile. This may not seem like a standout number, but it is important to consider how he plays. He spends a lot of time on the perimeter, spacing the floor and creating offense from outside the paint, so he is not always in position to grab offensive boards. But when he is near the basket, his length and timing allow him to crash the glass effectively. He may not rack up offensive rebounds at a high rate, but his presence alone forces defenses to focus on boxing him out, which creates second chance opportunities for his teammates. Turnovers are the one area where he has some room for improvement. His turnover rate is 11.6%, putting him in the 11th percentile. That is on the higher side, but it is completely understandable given how much he has the ball in his hands. He is carrying a huge offensive load, and that naturally leads to some mistakes. The best offensive players in the league all have higher turnover rates because they are constantly making plays and taking risks. As he continues to adjust and get more comfortable handling defensive pressure, this number should come down. Speaking of his offensive workload, Wembanyama's load rating is 45.5, which puts him in the 92nd percentile. That means he is responsible for a massive portion of his team's offense. He is not just scoring, he is creating plays, making decisions, and carrying the weight of the entire offense. Very few players in the league have this kind of offensive responsibility, and the fact that he is thriving in this role speaks to how special he is. He is not just a piece of the offense, he is the offense. His ability to create his own offense is another area where he stands out. His creation rating is 7.6, which places him in the 90th percentile. That means he is generating a ton of his own shot opportunities rather than relying on teammates to set him up. Most big men need a guard to create scoring chances for them, but Wembanyama is different. He has the ball handling, footwork, and skill to get his own looks at an elite level. Whether it is off the dribble, in the post, or spotting up from deep, he is finding ways to score without needing someone else to set him up. That is a rare skill set, especially for someone his size. Then there is portability, where he scores an 8, putting him in the 92nd percentile. This metric measures how well a player's offensive game fits into different lineups and systems. And Wembanyama's rating here proves that he can thrive anywhere. He is not limited to a specific role. He can adapt and succeed in any type of offense. Whether his team is running a fast-paced system, playing slow and methodical, or focusing on ball movement, he fits perfectly. That kind of versatility is what makes him such an incredible offensive asset. His passing is another area where he is showing promise. His passer rating is 4.1, which ranks exactly in the 50th percentile. He is not a primary playmaker, but he is making smart passes and keeping the offense flowing. He is not just looking to score, he is reading the defense, making the right plays, and setting up teammates when the opportunity is there. His passing ability is only going to improve as he gets more comfortable, and that will make him even more dangerous. Finally, let's talk about his overall offensive impact, which is measured by Crafted Offensive Player metric. He scores an elite 2.2 in this category, putting him in the 94th percentile. This number takes everything into account: scoring, efficiency, shot creation, playmaking, and versatility, and Wembanyama ranks near the top of the league. This is the clearest sign that his offensive game is already elite. He is doing everything at a high level, and the numbers prove that he is one of the most impactful offensive players in the game. When you put all of these stats together, it becomes obvious just how dominant Wembanyama is on offense. His efficiency is excellent, his shot selection is elite, his ability to create is next level, and he is carrying a massive offensive workload while still producing at an incredibly high rate. And the craziest part, this is just the beginning. He is already putting up elite numbers, and as he continues to develop, they are only going to get better. The one that really amazes me though is the ratings. Starting with his offensive rating, he is at 114.6. That means when he is on the floor, his team is scoring over 114 points per 100 possessions. That is a huge number for a player who also carries such a heavy defensive load. It shows how much he contributes to the offense, whether it is through scoring, spacing the floor, drawing defensive attention, or making smart passes. When he is out there, the offense just works better. His ability to stretch the floor with his shooting, finish at the rim at an elite rate, and create his own shot makes him a nightmare for opposing defenses. They have to focus on him every single possession, and that opens up opportunities for everyone else on the court. But what makes Wembanyama truly special is that his impact on defense might be even bigger. His defensive rating is 109.9, which is an elite mark for a player taking on this much responsibility. That means when he is on the floor, his team is allowing fewer than 110 points per 100 possessions. Opponents struggle to find open shots. They avoid attacking the paint, and they settle for tough looks. His rim protection alone forces teams to completely change their offensive approach. Guards who usually drive straight to the hoop hesitate when he is in the game. Big men who love scoring in the paint have to rethink their game plan. Every shot near the basket is a challenge, and even perimeter players have to deal with his length when they try to rise up for a jumper. Put those two numbers together, and his net rating is plus 4.7. That means when he is in the game, his team is outscoring opponents by nearly 5 points per 100 possessions. That is the definition of a player who makes winning plays. And considering he is just getting started in his career, that number could keep going up as he continues to develop. Some players put up big stats, but do not actually impact winning. Wembanyama is the opposite. Every single thing he does on the floor helps his team succeed. Then there is his on-off impact, which might be the most impressive stat of them all. His team's point differential when he is on the court compared to when he is off is plus 6.7. That means the moment he checks into the game, his team improves by nearly 7 points. That is a massive swing, and it proves just how much of a difference he makes. When he is playing, the offense flows better, the defense tightens up, and his team performs at a much higher level. When he is off the floor, that impact is gone, and the difference is noticeable. Very few players in the entire league have this kind of effect on their team's success. His plus-minus percentage backs this up in a big way. In 51.4% of the games he has played, his plus-minus has been positive. That means in more than half of his games, his team has played better with him on the floor, regardless of whether they win or lose. This is a huge stat for a young player, especially one who is on a team that is still developing. Even in tough matchups, even when his team is struggling, he is still making a clear impact. That is the mark of a truly elite player. And if that was not enough, he is also ranking among the best in the league in overall team impact. More than 91% of players rank below him in mixed teamwork impact, which measures how much a player's presence creates a positive margin for their team. This stat takes everything into account: scoring, efficiency, playmaking, rebounding, shot blocking, and defensive impact. And Wembanyama is already near the top of the league. This is the kind of number that defines a superstar. He is not just putting up great individual stats, he is making his entire team better every time he steps on the court. And the crazy part is, Victor Wembanyama's offensive workload this season, the numbers show exactly how much responsibility he has on offense, and it is truly elite. He is not just getting a lot of touches. He is the centerpiece of the offense, making plays, creating shots, and being the driving force behind everything his team does. His usage rate is through the roof, and it proves just how much the game revolves around him whenever he is on the floor. Let's start with the raw number. His usage rate is sitting at 31.7%. That means nearly 1/3 of every offensive possession ends with him taking a shot, getting to the free throw line, assisting a bucket, or turning the ball over. That alone is a massive workload. But what makes it even crazier is that it ranks higher than 97% of all players in the entire league. Only a handful of the biggest stars in the NBA carry this level of offensive responsibility, and Wembanyama is right there among them. Every time his team comes down the floor, the ball is in his hands, or he is the first option in the play. He is averaging 19 field goal attempts per game, meaning he is constantly being asked to create his own shot, find scoring opportunities, and be the go-to guy on offense. That kind of volume is not just about putting up numbers, it is about responsibility. He is being trusted to take those shots, to keep the offense flowing, and to deliver on a nightly basis. And what makes this even more impressive is that he is doing all of this while being efficient. He is not just taking a ton of shots, he is making sure they are good ones. Whether it is finishing at the rim, pulling up in the mid-range, or stretching the floor from deep, he is putting pressure on defenses in every way possible. There are not many players in the league who can carry this kind of offensive workload while still making smart decisions with the ball. But scoring is just one part of his offensive impact. He is also getting to the free throw line at an elite rate, averaging 3.8 free throw attempts per game. That is a massive part of his game because it forces defenders to play him differently. They cannot be too aggressive, they cannot overcommit, and they cannot afford to give him too much space. He knows how to use his length and footwork to draw contact, and every trip to the line means easy points. And considering how well he shoots free throws, for a player his size, every foul committed against him is a win for his team. Then there is his passing, which is an underrated part of his offensive arsenal. He is averaging 3.8 assists per game, showing that he is not just looking to score, he is making plays for his teammates and keeping the offense moving. This is where his impact goes beyond just numbers. When he gets the ball, defenses collapse. He draws attention, forces double teams, and makes defenders rotate, which opens up passing lanes and creates easy buckets for others. He is not just a scorer, he is a playmaker who understands how to read the floor and make the right decisions. And of course, with this level of offensive workload, turnovers are part of the equation. He is averaging 3.5 turnovers per game, which is expected for a player carrying this much responsibility. The best offensive players in the league all have high turnover numbers because they are the ones constantly making decisions, handling the ball, and trying to create offense. That is just the nature of the game. He is being asked to do so much, and with that come some mistakes. But as he continues to develop, his decision-making will only improve, and those numbers will start to come down. Now let's talk about just how involved he is in the offense. He is playing 68.3 possessions per game, which is an enormous number for a player who also takes on such a massive role on defense. That means nearly 70 possessions per game go through him in some way, whether he is shooting, passing, drawing a foul, or just being the focal point of the offense. He is constantly in the middle of the action, and that is what makes him such a unique player. He is not just a scorer, he is not just a playmaker, he is not just a shot creator, he is all of those things at once. He is the guy who makes the offense work, the player who forces defenses to adjust, and the one who carries the heaviest burden night after night. What makes this even crazier is that he is doing all of this while being the anchor on defense. Most players with usage rates this high are offensive-minded stars who do not put in nearly as much effort on the other end of the floor. But Wembanyama is different. He is taking on one of the biggest offensive workloads in the league while still dominating as a rim protector, shot blocker, and all-around defensive force. That is almost unheard of. When you put all of this together, it becomes clear. His offensive role is as big as it gets. He is taking a high volume of shots. He is getting to the free throw line. He is creating for others. And he is playing a massive number of possessions every single game. The numbers do not just say he is involved in the offense. They say he is the offense. I want to look at his rebounding too, though. Let's start with his overall rebounding. He is averaging 10.8 rebounds per game, which puts him ahead of 93% of all players in the league. That alone is a massive number, proving that he is one of the best rebounders in the game. But when you break it down even further, his dominance on the boards becomes even clearer. On the defensive end, he is pulling down 9 defensive rebounds per game. That puts him in the top 5% of all players in the league, ranking higher than 95% of them. His defensive rebound percentage, which measures how many available defensive rebounds he secures when he is on the floor, is an elite 24.7%. That means when a shot goes up and he is in position, there's almost a 1 in 4 chance he is grabbing the board. That is not just great, it is one of the best marks in the entire NBA. And these are not just empty rebounds. Every defensive rebound he grabs eliminates a second chance opportunity for the opposing team. It allows his team to push the ball in transition, reset the offense, and control the pace of the game. When he is on the floor, he is making sure opponents do not get easy putbacks or extra possessions, which is a massive reason why he is such an impact player. But his work on the offensive glass is just as important. He is averaging 1.8 offensive rebounds per game, which puts him ahead of 68% of all players in the league. His offensive rebound percentage is 5.39%, meaning he is grabbing over 5% of all available offensive rebounds when he is on the court. That is an elite mark for a player who spends so much time outside the paint. The ability to grab offensive boards is huge because it creates second chance points, extends possessions, and puts even more pressure on opposing defenses. His length, timing, and positioning allow him to track down missed shots and keep plays alive. Even if he does not grab the rebound himself, his presence alone forces defenses to box him out aggressively, which can create openings for his teammates to crash the glass. What makes this even more impressive is that he is doing all of this while playing one of the most physically demanding roles in the game. He is not just standing under the basket waiting for rebounds. He is moving all over the floor, switching onto perimeter players, contesting shots, and still managing to dominate the boards at an elite level. That is what separates him from most other big men in the league. Rebounding is one of the most important aspects of controlling a basketball game, and Wembanyama is already proving that he is one of the best at it. Whether it is securing defensive rebound to stop extra possessions or fighting for offensive rebounds to create scoring opportunities, he is impacting the game in ways that go beyond just scoring or blocking shots. Overall though, Victor Wembanyama is already proving to be one of the most unique and impactful players the league has ever seen, and the numbers back up every bit of that hype. From his jaw-dropping block totals to his unmatched efficiency in contested shots, he is dominating every part of the game. He is already in elite company with NBA legends like Hakeem, Shaquille O'Neal, and David Robinson when it comes to all-around performances, and his trajectory suggests he'll surpass them all. His usage rate shows he is the centerpiece of his team's offense, while his rebounding dominance on both ends of the floor solidifies him as one of the most reliable big men in the league. Add in his ability to shut down isolation scorers, his elite finishing at the rim, and his historic on-off impact, and it's clear he's a generational talent. Wembanyama isn't just putting up numbers. He's rewriting what's possible for a player of his size and skill set. Whether it's controlling the glass, dominating defense, or creating for himself and others, he does it all at an elite level. He's not just changing games, he's changing how the game is played. This is only the beginning, and the future looks unstoppable. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day during the season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.